Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about this. Recently came up and somebody had messaged me and said they were tracking their anxiety, and really made me want to cover this because I think it's really important. How much are you tracking your symptoms? Okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but as we often do, slow the breath, slow the thinking, smile, relax the muscles, shake it out. Trust that you're okay. Breathe out the chaos. So, how much are you tracking your symptoms, your experience, your emotions? And it's very easy when we start to feel unwell that we start to say, I better keep an eye on this. And some people get so into the tracking that they have journals, they have spreadsheets, they track it. And in many cases, some people have a listing of every single symptom they have or have had. And in some cases, people are like, at one point I had over 100 symptoms. And so it's very compelling to track, to keep a log, to keep a record of this stuff. And so sometimes what I hear people tracking is, here's where it hurt and here's how bad it was, scale of 1 to 10. Other symptoms, the intensity of them. Boy, the tingling in my left arm was really high today, probably a 6 out of 10. Other people will track their moods, their anxiety, their feeling of depression, their sadness, their anger, and they'll track it. You know, some other things is, how does my gut feel today? How many times did I pee and poop today? Recording it, writing it down. How about sleep? How about the glucose levels? You know, how about our heart rate and our blood pressure? And there are medical reasons for us to track certain things. So if you are under the direction of a doctor saying, track this for me, and when I see you in 5 days, I want to see what you've recorded, wonderful. That makes sense to me. But if you are undergoing a recovery on your own, what I find is that tracking does nothing but increase your hypervigilance. Because I have people who are like, yeah, my heart rate jumped by 10 beats. What happened? Something bad is going on. Heart rate is variable. It can go up and down pretty often with a thought, with a phone call, with a stressful situation, with a symptom jumping. All that stuff can cause symptoms to change moment by moment. And if you feel a need to track your symptoms, track your mood, track your vitals, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your sleep levels, the intensity of your sleep, I can tell you that if your goal, and I hope it is, if your goal is to teach your brain that you're actually okay, all of this tracking does is add hypervigilance and start to cause you to perceive a problem anytime the numbers you are tracking turn to a direction that you don't think is good. So, people who track their sleep, does that allow them to sleep better? Or do they wake up and go, oh no, I only got X number of hours of deep sleep. I'm going to be tired today. And they predict that. And then inevitably they worry about sleep the next night. And it can perpetuate it. I like to take the view that the autonomic systems of the human body throughout history were not tracked or measured or monitored at that microscopic, beat per minute level. We just trusted that the brain and body was taking care of us. And I'm going to encourage you to get back to that. Tracking your pain levels on an hour by hour, day by day basis doesn't really get you too far. Because it has you wondering, oh, it's 3 o'clock, wonder what my pain's now, I better go record it. Just adds much more vigilance. So I don't recommend tracking things unless you're under medical instruction to do so by your doctor. So comment below, who here is tracking their symptoms? Who here is tracking their mood? And look, in some cases, your psychologist, your psychiatrist will tell you, Keep track of your moods. How depressed are you feeling? How anxious are you feeling? And look, what is the value of doing that? And ask the doctor or the therapist, what are we going to do with this information and how does that benefit us? Because again, it just creates this inward hyper focus on what's wrong with us. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that perceived danger is, in my view, what creates the vast majority of physical and mental health situations that are viewed as not ideal. And so if that's the case, why would we want to focus on what's wrong? What we want to do is start to teach the brain that we're actually okay and trust this miracle of a brain and body to take care of us. So I don't believe tracking is a useful tool to overall wellness. It just creates more fear if the numbers are a little bit off. I also don't believe, we need to manage our life and our symptoms through laboratory testing, blood tests, glucose, urine tests, everything else. Look, if there is a true physical symptom, yes, getting checked out is fine. Let's make sure there's no disease process going, no infection going. But once we know that, we don't have to manage our lives based on our vitamin profile in our most recent lab test, because almost never have I met somebody that says, I was a little bit deficient in vitamin C or vitamin D. I took a little bit of it and all my TMS symptoms went away. I just don't see it. So the perceived danger is what creates symptoms, and safety, conveying that consistently, not only telling ourselves that, but showing ourselves that, is what will allow the brain to say, oh, we're okay, and have things settle down. And I can assure you that tracking your symptoms, your mood, your vitals daily or multiple times a day does not really convey safety at all. It conveys, I'm in trouble and I need to be a clinical study manager of my own health to figure this out. That's going to keep the system on high alert and highly vigilant. So, again, unless you have a medical requirement from your doctor or the hospital to track certain things, I generally don't recommend it. And if you got a heartbeat monitor on your smartwatch, turn it off. You don't want to see it every time you get a little stressed out and your heartbeat jumps a little bit. What's that going to do? Oh, what's wrong? Right? And I know I've talked to enough people that when they stop tracking, it provides a benefit. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who said he was tracking his anxiety said, I don't understand. I felt not anxious for the past couple of days. And he said, the only thing I changed was I stopped tracking my anxiety. Yes, because when you track your anxiety, it tells your brain, I've got an anxiety problem. When you stop tracking it, the brain interprets that to mean, oh, I guess that's not important anymore. Pretty interesting. So, tracking. Don't recommend it unless you're under medical instructions to do it. And once you do that, I would recommend you stop when the doctors no longer need that data. Sometimes data is useful. Sometimes getting things checked out. Not sometimes. It is important to get things checked out. Infections, disease, cancers, tumors, lung issues, breathing issues, heart issues, that type of stuff. But once you've done that, then you rule in the mind-body cause, perceived danger cause of symptoms. And once we know, and it's shown that I have a mind-body condition, tracking the body and the vitals and everything else is not an advantageous technique. So, hope this makes sense to you. Comment below. Let me know if you're tracking it. If so, when are you going to stop? And what has that done for you other than create vigilance and a hyper-awareness of everything in your body? So, love you folks. As always, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.